Everyone knows the famous ones, the towns on every best places to live list where the house prices doubled the week the article came out. This video is not about those. These are 21 small towns across England, Scotland and Wales that most people have never heard of. All of them lovely, and everyone with a story that sounds made up. A bookshop owner who crowned himself king and appointed his horse prime minister, a town rebuilt by two brothers whose surname was Bastard, a nuclear bunker the size of a city under a high street, a football match with goals 3 miles apart and one real rule: no murder, no crowds, no queues. Grab a cup of tea. Let's go. 21. Saffron Walden, Essex. We start in northwest Essex in a town of crooked timber houses, painted pink, ochre and cream. And it is strange because of a flower and a patch of grass. It was simply chipping Walden until the fields around it filled with crocuses, saffron, the most expensive spice in the world grown here for 200 years, until the harvesting proved so brutal the industry died out. The town kept the name, and on the common there is a labyrinth cut into the turf itself, 17 circuits, nearly a mile of path, and the largest surviving turf maze in Europe. Town accounts from 1699 record 15 shillings paid for cutting it. Nobody knows who cut the first one. 20. Woodbridge, Suffolk. Number 20 takes us to the Suffolk coast, to a town of pastel Georgian shopfronts and boats leaning over in the mud with a white weatherboarded mill on the quay. The Woodbridge Tide Mill is exactly what it sounds like. The incoming tide fills a pond, the gates shut, and as the water drains out, it turns the wheel. There has been a mill here since 1170, and it ground commercially until 1957, the last working tide mill in Britain. Restored, it is now the only one in the country grinding wheat into flour you can buy. It opens when the tide says so, not when the museum feels like it. Check the calendar before you travel, or you have come to Suffolk to watch a very old building do nothing. Then cross the river. 3 miles away is Sutton Hoo. 19. Blandford Forum, Dorset. Down in Dorset now, to a town of warm brick around a marketplace, so uniformly Georgian it looks like a set, and it is Georgian for the saddest possible reason. At 2 in the afternoon on the 4th of June 1731, a fire started in a tallow chandler's workshop. 5 hours later, 90% of the town was gone. 400 families were homeless, and the parish registers had burned, which is why nobody can say how many died. Parliament ordered the town remade in brick and tile within 4 years, and the job went to 2 local architect brothers who genuinely, historically, were surnamed Bastard. John and William Bastard redrew the street plan and put up a town hall, a church and a whole town centre in one sweep. So Blandford looks like a stage set because it was designed as one in one go by 2 brothers with the worst surname in English architecture. 18. Ottery St Mary, Devon at number 18, a soft red brick town on the River Otter, thatch, cob and steep little lanes. It spends 364 days a year being extremely pretty and 1 day a year on fire. Plenty of places roll a flaming barrel down a street. Ottery St Mary is the only town where people pick up full-size barrels soaked in tar, set them alight and run through the crowd with them on their backs. 17 of them, and the carriers have to have been born in the town. Nobody knows why. Gunpowder plot, fumigating the cottages, Armada beacons, no document settles it. Every 5th of November, 15,000 people turn up to a town of 7,000 and stand there entirely at their own risk. 17. Lostwithiel, Cornwall. Number 17 goes 3 miles inland in Cornwall to a wooded river valley with a small grey town in the bottom of it. A medieval bridge, a spire, steep slate streets. It used to run the county. Lostwithiel was Cornwall's administrative capital in the 13th and 14th centuries. Every ingot of tin smelted in Cornwall had to be brought to a stannery town like this one to be weighed, assayed and taxed before it could be sold. Then the tin ruined it. Centuries of tin streaming upstream washed so much silt into the Fowey that the river filled in. Ships could no longer reach the quay, and the trade moved downstream. Lostwithiel simply stopped. Walk the mile north to Restormel Castle, where the Black Prince spent Christmas in 1362. 16. Corsham, Wiltshire. At number 16 we are in Wiltshire, on a high street of honey-coloured Cotswold stone with peacocks wandering down the middle of the road. That is not a figure of speech. Actual peacocks standing on the rooftops and admiring themselves in shop windows. Nobody can tell you when they moved in. They are simply there, and the council lists them as an attraction. Underneath is the other thing. In a stone quarry 120 feet below Corsham is a 35-acre underground city built in secret from 1955 and codenamed Burlington. 60 miles of road, Britain's second largest telephone exchange. A BBC studio so the Prime Minister could broadcast to whatever was left of the country. Built to keep 4,000 people, including the cabinet, governing for 3 months after a nuclear strike. It was never used and it stayed secret until 2004. You cannot go down, but you can stand on a perfectly pretty Georgian street, being ignored by a peacock, directly above where the end of the world was going to be administered from. 15. Hay-on Wye, Powys. Number 15 crosses into Wales, 1,600 people, a ruined castle, stone cottages running down to the River Wye and books in every window. It also declared independence from the United Kingdom. In 1962, a young man called Richard Booth opened a second-hand bookshop in Hayes' old fire station. Then another. Then he bought the castle and filled that with books too, importing them from America by the container load. Others opened shops to compete and the town ended up with 20-odd bookshops. Then on the 1st of April 1977, Booth declared Hay an independent kingdom and himself its king. Homemade crown, passports, peerages, a secret service called the CIA, and his horse, Goldie, appointed Prime Minister. It was a stunt and completely serious, a protest about small towns being hollowed out and ignored, and it worked because people are still coming 50 years later. 14. Much Wenlock, Shropshire, back into England at number 14, black and white timber framing, a ruined priory in a meadow at the end of the street and under 3,000 people. It invented the modern Olympic Games, that is not a stretch. In 1850, the local doctor William Penny Brooks founded the Wenlock Olympian Games, running, cricket, football, and an event where competitors chased a pig. Then in October 1890, a young French aristocrat called Pierre de Coubertin came to see it. 4 years later, Coubertin founded the International Olympic Committee and wrote that if the Olympic Games survive today, it is due not to a Greek, but to Dr. W.P. Brooks. Brooks died 4 months before the first modern Olympics opened in Athens. He never saw it, and one of the London 2012 mascots was called Wenlock. Now you know why. 13. Ludlow, Shropshire, half an hour south, is a town Betjeman called probably the loveliest in England. 500 listed buildings, a Norman castle on a bluff, black and white inns leaning over the pavement, green hills all round. For about 15 years, it was also the best place to eat in the country. At its peak, this town of 10,000 people had 3 Michelin-starred restaurants at once, a ratio no city in Britain has ever matched. In 2003, it became the first UK town to join Citterslow, the Slow Cities movement, on the principle that a town should resist being sanded down into a copy of every other town. The Michelin stars have gone now. What is left is arguably better, and a food festival in the castle every September. 12. Stamford, Lincolnshire. Number 12 is built from pale golden limestone under grey slate, 600 listed buildings and 5 medieval churches, and nothing modern in the middle at all. Stamford is so complete it changed the law. In 1967, when the Civic Amenities Act invented the conservation area, the ministry was preparing careful pilot studies in Bath, York and Chichester, and a county planner called Kenneth Fennell simply got there first. Stamford became the first conservation area in England within 2 months, which is why it looks the way it does. Nothing was allowed to happen to it. Stamford was Meryton in the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, and all of Middlemarch was shot in its streets. 11. Ashburn, Derbyshire. Number 11 sits on the edge of the Peak District, a genteel Georgian market town of cobbles and coaching inns. And for 2 days a year it is the most violent place in England. Ashburn's Royal Shrovetide football is played on Shrove Tuesday, then again on Ash Wednesday. 2 teams decided by which side of the Henmore Brook you were born on. 2 goals, 3 miles apart. No limit on players, no pitch, and a ball filled with Portuguese cork so that it floats, because a great deal of the game happens in the river. The written rules are almost the best part. No murder, no manslaughter, no carrying the ball in a motor vehicle, nothing after 10 at night. It has been going since at least 1683, and every shop in that pretty Georgian high street boards up its windows the week before. If you have already added one of these to a list, hit the like button. It genuinely helps. And stay with me, because the top 10 is where the stories get properly strange. 10. Hebden Bridge, West Yorkshire. Number 10 is a mill town in a Pennine Valley, so steep the houses had to be stacked on top of each other, dark gritstone terraces climbing the hillsides, woods above the roofline. Hebden Bridge has terraces 4 and 5 stories high, where the bottom floors are one house, entered from the road below, and the top floors a separate house, entered from the hillside behind. 2 front doors, 2 families, 2 addresses, 1 building, and a legal oddity called a flying freehold, where your neighbour owns your ceiling. The usual explanation is that there was no flat land. The truer one is that a Victorian builder worked out he could get 2 rentable homes from 1 set of foundations and did it several hundred times. Walk up to Heptonstall afterwards. There is a ruined church standing beside a working one, and in the graveyard extension, Sylvia Plath. 9. Masham, North Yorkshire. Number 9 is a Dales market town of 1,200 people around an enormous cobbled square, with the moors starting at the last house. It has 2 breweries in it, founded by the same family and not speaking to each other. Theakston has brewed in Masham since 1827. In 1984, after a fallout between family members and shareholders, the firm was sold out of the family. So in 1988, Paul Theakston, who had run it for 20 years, walked out, bought an old malt building across town and started again from nothing. His wife suggested the name Black Sheep, because Masham is a sheep town and because that is exactly what he was. In 2003, the Theakston brothers bought the family firm back, thought to be the first time a small British brewer has ever repurchased itself, come the last weekend of September when the square fills with sheep. 8. Richmond, North Yorkshire. At number 8, a town that falls down a hillside in tears, a Norman keep on the cliff, a huge cobbled square, and the swale running white over rocks below the castle walls. It also has a secret that sat in a wine cellar for a century. In 1788, an actor-manager called Samuel Butler built a theatre here. By 1830, the corporation had refused to renew his lease, and the performances stopped, and then something wonderful happened. Instead of pulling it down, they floored over the pit, built wine vaults underneath, and used the space above as an auction room, which meant that for 115 years, nobody touched the boxes, the gallery, or the stage. When it reopened in 1963, Richmond turned out to have the most complete Georgian playhouse left in Britain, still working, with the furthest seat 10 metres from the stage. 7. Alnwick, Northumberland. Number 7 is a Northumberland market town of grey stone and cobbled lanes, with a medieval gateway still standing across the road and an enormous castle at the top. Hogwarts in the first 2 Harry Potter films. But its greatest attraction is a second-hand bookshop in a disused railway station. Alnwick lost its station in the Beeching Cuts, and in 1991, Stuart and Mary Manley moved their bookshop into the empty Victorian building. Barter Books is now one of the largest second-hand bookshops in Europe, with a model railway running above the shelves and open fires in the old waiting rooms. And in the year 2000, Stuart opened a box of books bought at auction and found a folded poster at the bottom, red with a crown, and the words, "Keep calm and carry on." 2.5 million had been printed in 1939, barely ever displayed, and almost all pulped in 1940. Nobody had seen one in 60 years. The Manleys framed it by the till, then started printing copies, and that is the entire origin of a slogan now on every mug in Britain. Next door, the Alnwick Garden keeps a locked-walled section of 100 plants that can kill you. 6. Berwick-upon-Tweed, Northumberland. Number 6 is the northernmost town in England. Red pantile roofs above a wide river mouth, 3 great bridges in a row, and a complete ring of walls you can walk around. It has spent most of its existence unsure it is English at all. Berwick changed hands between England and Scotland at least 13 times before 1482. Its football team still plays in the Scottish League, and because the English kept expecting to lose it again, they built the most extraordinary town defences in Britain. Not medieval walls, but low, thick-angled Elizabethan ramparts begun in 1558 to survive cannon fire. You may have heard Berwick was technically at war with Russia until 1966. It is a wonderful story, and it is not true. An Act of 1746 had already folded Berwick into England for every legal purpose. The tale was invented around 1914 and has outlived every correction since. L.S. Lowry came here on holiday for 40 years and painted it constantly. Walk the walls at low sun and you will see why. 5. Moffat, Dumfries and Galloway. We are into the top 5 and crossing into Scotland, a wide, handsome spa high street with green hills closing in at both ends. It has the narrowest hotel in the world and a statue missing its ears. The Star Hotel is 20 feet wide and 162 feet long. It goes back, not across, and it is listed in the Guinness Book of Records as the narrowest hotel in the world. Up the street is a bronze ram by William Brodie, the man who sculpted Greyfriars, Bobby. It has no ears. The story everyone tells is that a farmer shouted, "It's got nay lugs," at the unveiling, and the sculptor went home and hanged himself in shame. He did not. Brodie lived another 6 years, but the ram has no ears, and nobody has ever explained why. The real reason to come is the sky. In 2016, Moffat became the first town in Europe awarded dark sky status. Go between October and March, and you can see the Milky Way from the high street. 4. Melrose Scottish Borders, number 4, is a borders town under 3 volcanic hills, gathered around the pink sandstone ruin of its abbey. A butcher invented a sport here, and a king may or may not be buried in a box. In the Abbey's chapter house in 1921, they found a casket. It was reburied, rediscovered in 1996 and opened. Inside was a small, preserved human heart. Tradition says it is Robert the Bruce's, but Historic Environment Scotland were careful never to confirm it. 3 heart burials are recorded here, and the heart had been preserved in hot tar, which made DNA testing impossible. Nobody will ever know. Then in 1883, a local butcher called Ned Haig needed money for the rugby club and suggested a shortened game, 7-a-side, 15 minutes instead of 80. 8 teams entered, Melrose beat Gala in the final, and rugby sevens existed. It is now an Olympic sport, and the same tournament still runs in the same town. Look for the pig playing the bagpipes on the Abbey roofline while you're there. 3. Cromarty Highland, we are into the top 3. Number 3 is at the tip of the Black Isle, 670 people, painted merchant houses facing the sea between 2 headlands called the Suitors. The 18th century never quite ended here. Cromarty was a wealthy little port, and in the 1770s a merchant called George Ross poured money into it. A harbour, a courthouse, Georgian houses for the merchants and cottages for the fishermen. Then the trade moved elsewhere, and because nothing ever replaced it, nothing was ever knocked down. There is also a ferry. It carries 2 cars. It is the only vehicle ferry left on the east coast of Scotland, and there is no turntable, so you reverse on. Go between May and September, then drive half an hour to Chancery Point on a rising tide, one of the best places in Europe to watch dolphins from dry land. 2. Crickhowell Powys. Number 2 is a small Welsh town in the Black Mountains, a long stone bridge over the Usk, a flat-topped mountain directly behind the rooftops, hanging baskets on every shop. It tried to become a tax haven. In 2015, the traders of Crickhowell, the bakery, the bookshop, the smokery, the optician, took proper advice and worked out exactly how the multinationals do it. A company in the Isle of Man to own the town's brand. A Dutch subsidiary to collect royalties for using it. Route the money out through the Netherlands, where it is not taxed on the way through. Entirely legal if you're big enough. They called it Fair Tax Town. The BBC filmed all of it, and then this is the part that always gets left out. After 2 years, they decided not to go through with it. The point was never to avoid tax. It was to show that a village bakery can build the same structure as a tech giant, and to ask why only one of them is expected to use it. 1. Conwy, North Wales. And at number 1, a walled town on the North Wales coast with the mountains of Eryri behind it, pastel houses, and a working harbour inside a complete ring of medieval walls and an enormous castle at one end. Conwy was built as a package by Edward I from 1283, castle and town walls together, finished in 4 years. 8 great towers on the castle, 21 on the walls, running almost unbroken around the town. It is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and built into the south wall is a row of 12 medieval toilets for the royal clerks, which exists nowhere else on Earth. But the thing everyone queues for is down on the quay. Quay House is 10 feet by 6, and it is officially the smallest house in Great Britain. It was lived in until 1900 when it was declared unfit for human habitation. The last tenant, a fisherman called Robert Jones, 6'3", who could not stand up in his own home. Walk the walls anti-clockwise from Upper Gate so the castle arrives all at once. Then stand on the quay and look back. A castle, a medieval town wall, a Georgian bridge, and Britain's smallest house, all in one frame. There is nowhere else in the country that gives you that. So there they are. 21 picturesque small towns across Britain, and not one of them on a best places to live list. Now I want to know, which one are you going to first, and which town did we miss? Tell us in the comments, because half the best places in this country never make anybody's list. If this gave you somewhere new to go, hit like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.